okay, we've seen the new James Bond film, No Time to Die.
Yes.
So off the bat, what would you say? What's your thoughts on the film, mate? After a 2 year wait, we've finally got to see it.
Well, my initial thought after watching, I've seen it twice now in the cinema, and my initial thought after seeing it the first time was that it was a really well made, amazing film, and I was just, I think because I saw it with my dad in the IMAX, so unlike he's a massive James Bond fan, I've been waiting ages, and I've been keeping up to date with all like trailers and stuff, so like I've been really looking forward to this movie, and I love James Bond, and like the legacy of Bond and all the movies and all the classic stuff and all the new stuff, and I've just been waiting for this, so I was engrossed in the film. Like I was sort of like wasn't looking for it to be bad. I was just wanting to enjoy it for what it was, and I really enjoyed it. And me and my dad were blubbering at the end, like when. Well, not. I'm not. We're not going to do. We're going to spoil it. Are we doing spoilers?
Yeah, we could do
Yeah. Yeah.
spoilers.
Spoiler warning, I guess, if you haven't seen it. Um, we were just like from the moment the music started to get sad after in the fight, like the final fight scene, I was already starting to cry. I was like tearing up, and I was like, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. What is it's gonna happen? Then like he said goodbye to Madeline and all that stuff, and I just burst out crying when he died. And then right at the end, there was the music,
Oh,
and the music made me cry even more. So during like when the lights turned on, I was like, oh no, I'm still crying. Please stop. I think that was the most I've ever cried at a movie, but I really I did enjoy it for what it was. I thought it was a good sequel to Spectre, which wasn't a great movie. It tied up all of the Daniel Craig movies. I think from the first one he was in, and there was a lot of nods to classic Bond, which I thought was really nice. There was a nod to Doctor No, which I thought was great, or maybe more. I'm not the biggest like scholar on James Bond, so there might have been more than I noticed. But there was a lot of references to old Bonds that I really did enjoy. So I thought it was a nice one. I thought it was good. It was a nice sort of final outing. I think. To, did you enjoy that rambling?
that's nice because I honestly I went into this movie expecting to dislike
Hmm.
it because for the whole 2 year period of waiting for this film, I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, mostly on the negative side, and it might just be because of the people I currently follow on the current wide
Hmm.
web, and a lot of these people I feel like they're a bit more truthful than what we hear from the people that are paid to basically promote half this stuff these days. And I got a very strong impression over the last year, well, this year and the last year, that this film was going to be affected by real life events, for lack of a better word, without going into too much stuff. Because again, I said it's not something I want to talk about on this channel. But I just heard very concerning things that I thought were going to be a very bad ending per se for what would have been Daniel Craig's last outing. But I was pleasantly surprised with how the film turned out, and maybe they can. Someone will pause. Maybe someone will probably come out at a future point and say, "Oh, it was going to be like that, but they chopped it down." Because a current rumor going around the mill at the moment is that the film was made to be a certain agenda,
Yeah.
but they toned it down. And I can see there are certain moments in the movie when you watch it, when you watch it again as well, likely, where you can almost see the implications of what they mean. And again, when you compare it to other big franchise films that have done a similar thing, or shows that have just gone down that same path, and become negatively affected by that because they sacrificed story and characters for messaging and political agendas
Batwoman.
and all that jazz. But that was a factor,
Mm.
and that was a concerning factor. But honestly, after seeing the movie, and I've only seen the film once, I really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
And again, for all the concerns I had going in, of the characters that I really enjoyed, I mean, I liked them all, and I'll get to that. But I really did enjoy Naomi's character, the 007
Yeah.
agent, because I really loved the dynamic she had with Bond. Because again, I feel like what worked about it was that they both had strengths to it. She had her macho moments, but she oh, nearly knocked my microphone there. But yeah, she had her wildly moments, but she also had her very personal moments, her very vulnerable moments at points too. They weren't. They were. I don't think she has a big range in terms of a character, but she had enough to make me feel for her enough, but also have a bit of a disdain for her because like Bond has for her at the beginning of the film because they're almost competing with each other. But and I think the main thing was also Bond because he didn't lose himself. He wasn't. He didn't get lessened as a character for the sake of propping Naomi up. I mean, every time she snapped at him, or every time she put a jab at him, he always had one back. He always had a retort, and that's quintessential Bond. He always has the last jab, and I love that they were able to keep that and still have fun with the story and the characters. And by the end of it, I was really happy. I was happy to see that they got to team up and go through this final act together.
Yeah, me too. I was actually like from the trailer. I was looking forward to that particular like. I love a good like team up battle moment, and I was really looking forward to that. And I know what you mean. But yeah, I know like what you mean about the the
I mean, for other contexts, it's happened with Star Wars, it's happened with Doctor Who, it's happened with Ghostbusters 2016, and a few other films that I can't think off the top of my head, and other shows too. But in short, it basically summarizes that it's they're not making good characters anymore. They're just doing it for messaging in politics and agendas and feminism, all this other stuff that again we don't really need to get into. But it basically boils down to they sacrifice good story and characters for this other stuff that's not going to age well. And I was concerned that Bond would fall in the same trap, but they didn't.
sure.
That is, in my opinion, I'd say. I feel like there was enough in this movie to make me enjoy a lot of the characters.
Yeah. What you said about that rumors and stuff, and like, was it like about the production and the agenda that it possibly was trying to convey? Was it rumors or was it like people from the cast and crew talking about it?
A lot of it was talk from some of the cast,
Hmm.
particularly the actress who played Naomi,
Hmm.
and a lot of it was on-set rumors at the time. I think the one that stands out the most that I can fully elaborate on was that there was a leak. I want to say a leak. I think it might have just been a leak from the studio itself or something. I don't know. But essentially, there was a leak like last year or something that there was going to be a scene in the movie where Bond is meant to. What's his name? I'm blanking on the name.
Who?
M.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
M. Sorry. Yeah, M was meant to say, maybe at his desk, he was meant to say, "Where's 007?" And then it was meant to be a big reveal that. God damn it! Not my microphone again. There was meant to be a big reveal. It was shot as a big reveal where Naomi would come in and she would be the new 007, and it would be like all this big scene of like, oh wow, and all the tabloids like hyped up as like, oh, meet the new James Bond, and there's also a scene where she was also meant to be seduced by Bond, but she was meant to have none of it and like throw him back at his face. And it's
I
moments
mean,
like
both
that
of those
that
did sort
again
of
it shows
happen,
like
didn't they? Because there was that the bit of him saying "Where's 007?" That was in it, and then like it didn't go straight to her, but it was in it. And then the scene where they meet for the first time, that was basically what that was. It was like her trying to like pretend she was just a civilian, um, and take her going back to his place, and then she was like, "Nope, just get out of my way," essentially. So that was basically in it, but that wasn't bad.
exactly.
That was just sort of like
But
good scenes.
the difference is though that from how that was described in the leak per se, when you see the actual movie, if the leaks are true, then this film confirms again. I say confirms, but essentially shows that it was either never happened. In that case, great. Then this was always going to be a good film, and intentionally so. Or if it is true, then it means it was cut down.
Hmm.
So those scenes did happen, but after from the period of waiting for the movie to come out and seeing how fans responded, I'm assuming to other big franchises and to the response that these leaks got, they likely could have toned it down. And in this case, if that is true, great, because the film clearly shows that this works. This version works better because, as you said, the final product is okay, and I agree because when you look at the scene as is, there's no need to make a big reveal about this new double O because the main character is Bond. So why would you need to highlight this other character that really isn't going to be important in the next era? Likely, they could maybe do a spin off, but I doubt it because again, when you do the next Bond, you want everything to be on that new era.
Hmm.
And when you look at her introduction to Bond, it makes so much more sense that she would be undercover before revealing her identity.
Yeah.
That's more of a bit of a dramatic reveal for people who
Hmm.
haven't seen the trailers or who haven't seen or know Bond at all. To be, oh, this is a double O. that's a much more organic way to introduce a new character, a new Double O agent, instead of where's 007, screen pans up, hello, I'm the new 007, and I'm a
Yeah.
woman. It's like, it's like that would have ruined it just because feminism. It's like, yeah, that wouldn't have helped. But what we did get was perfect. I really loved that. So that's all about Naomi. I think she was good in the story that's she serviced the story well with her role in it. I mean, if I had to nitpick, there's a moment in the in the film where I think near the end of the second act or first act, sorry, where they're at the Spectre party, and she basically steals the scientist from Bond, and she basically just grabs the guy and then goes wee.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not
that
gonna lie,
I did enjoy that bit where it was just like a sort of I don't know how to describe the type of scene, but it was just like a fun, playful scene where they were like trying to get something, but the something was a person.
yeah, I guess you could chalk up to trying to be a bit of levity in a very honestly quite a brutal, intense
Well, I
scene,
mean,
considering all the death.
yeah, well, this movie was a bit more of a had more comedic moments than the last couple did, and
Oh, true. Yeah,
that was just I guess one of the comedic bits where she just went wee. I didn't realize it was is it Naomi or Nomi? I thought it was just Nomi. Or is it Naomi?
I just call it. I just say Naomi.
Uh, 0072. Um, I didn't realize it was her for a second because I was like, "What is happening? Who's this random person?" Oh, because then like in the next scene, because you don't see her face, you only see it for like a split second. And I was like, "Oh my god, who's this like third party?" I was like, "Oh no, it's her. It's fine."
But yeah, I just feel like maybe it's because I'd watched all the Craig films leading up to to watching this last one recently. But I guess I got it in my head when I saw that scene that these are quite the serious ones.
Mm.
So to have this one character come in and go wee, I guess it was a bit of a
Yeah,
kind of wish
but
they
yeah,
didn't do that.
I enjoyed it.
But
I thought she was
honestly,
a good
I didn't mind
character.
it honestly in the end.
Yeah, I thought she was a good character, and she felt like she felt like a Bond character. Like she didn't feel out of place at all, and like I think it was from the trailers. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, this is the new 007 or whatever." But I was like, I mean, yeah, I mean, if Bond's not in service anymore, then sure it'd be someone, and like, and she was a really good not rival to him, but I guess they had a rivalry, but they were good. Like they played off each other, I think, very well. It was sort of similar to Sean Bean in Goldeneye. That sort of like another like another double O, but this time it was another 007. I thought she was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of the story, would you say so? You think it decently wraps up everything from the Craig era?
Um, it wraps everything up. I'm not sure how decent it is. Some of it is just a bit like oh, we need to get rid of all Spectre. Okay, now all the Spectre are dead. Like, oh, okay. I mean, it wraps everything up. And like he goes like in ways that don't feel too like. I understand why they did it all. Just to this is the last one of the five movies, but like when he went back to the grave of uh, Vesper, yeah. I didn't get a feeling from the other movies that he did miss her. Like I thought it was just like she died, the bitch is dead. Like that's what he said,
Yeah.
and then that's it. But this one's like, oh, I miss you, and like, oh, and I'm like, does he? It just feels like they put that in just for like continuity or to just to wrap it up. I don't think he did miss her. Like if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
I feel like I think she got over her at the end of Quantum of Solace, honestly,
Yeah.
and I feel this is probably just an excuse. No, no, not an excuse. I'd say this is more of a problem from Spectre because that film tried to set up Madeline Swan as his new Vesper love interest,
Mhm.
and it wasn't really done well. So I feel like this is probably just a
Yeah.
hangover of that, where they tried to tie it back to everything. I just think it wasn't as. I mean, considering she was hardly mentioned at all in Skyfall, I think it makes sense that it's a bit out of place to suddenly bring this little subplot of he still misses her.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, if anything, I'm more confused by the fact that it reveals her age, and it says that according to at least if we're going by canon, the actual story canon, she was meant to be 23 when she died or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. That seems a bit. Hmm.
Okay, first off, God, she was impressive to get a high staking government job at that young.
Exactly. That's what I thought when I first heard someone say 23. I was like, how does she get so far up in her industry when she's 23? What the bloody hell is that about? Um,
Knows people in high places.
wasn't she
But then
like
again,
30 odd when they filmed it?
yeah, I think she was. If again, if this canon is true, oh
Hmm.
god, that makes it quite awkward now.
Yeah, it's a bit strange that.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. Maybe it was a mistake on the production department. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, bloody strange mistake. Like, yeah, who was on the numbers for this? Someone didn't do the maths.
yeah. But yeah, aside from that, I would say, in my opinion, I would say I thought the film was great. In terms of the other characters, I'm glad we got to see everyone back in this one. Even some
Mhm.
of the minor characters from Spectre returned, I think, which is good on them. They committed to one scene where they got killed off.
Who was that?
And I've again off the top of my head, I think it was the guy from Blofeld's not his second in command. He's literally a guy who only appears in like two scenes in Spectre at the Blofeld's base, and I think that's it.
Really? Who was that? Who was that in this movie?
He was at the party. I remember seeing him in the
Really?
crowd. Yeah,
Oh, I
but yeah,
didn't notice that at all.
yeah. And just for context, I ended up researching it afterwards just to confirm it.
And it
So
was.
I can't remember the name now. I'm blanking on it. But
Oh.
in short, if you watch Spectre and this film back to back, you might notice him more clearly.
I mean, yeah,
But
we haven't watched Spectre for like what 5 years. When did that come out?
oh god, 2015.
That was it.
Yeah.
Wow, 6 years. That's ridiculous.
Mm.
The gaps between Bond movies are very odd. Like bloody Skyfall was 2012, man. That's 10 years ago almost.
Oh my god, I actually still have a. I don't know if they did this in other countries. I'm sure they might have done a variation of it, but in here in England, they made special Coca-Cola bottles that were covered in a
Yeah, I
special kind
remember
of
that.
covering to advertise the film, and I
Yeah.
actually got one of them and I kept it, and I've still got it in my cupboard right now.
Wow. I like stuff like that, but like, and I want to collect it, but it's like, why I'm not going to put it anywhere, and it's just going to get thrown away. I get too attached to things. I'm like, oh, this one like receipt from a thing I bought was like, it has a cool picture on it. I should keep it. Why? I've got a lot of Kingsman stuff for that. I was like, oh, I should probably keep this. It's just in a bag.
Do you think you might get any of the new stuff for the new film?
Oh yeah, yeah. If there is stuff, I will.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Kingsman too much.
Okay, so in closing of like the main part of the story and the characters, I felt every character did their story perfect. I'm glad we got to see a lot of the main MI6 gang one last time, and I'm also glad that I guess in terms of how it ends per se, I really love that everyone got to almost organically say goodbye and do their part in the story. I mean, we're getting a bit further ahead, but I would just say I really loved that everyone acted within character. I love that when after Bond does his thing, everyone mourns him, and then it's like, okay, everyone, back to work, because that's what they do. That's their
Yeah,
mission.
that was
That's
a good
their,
scene. Yeah.
yeah. It was a great way to naturally make that move per se.
Do you reckon that scene was like to sort of say that these characters are going to stay, and that they're going to be in the next one, or do you reckon this is like a just a nice line for the death of Bond?
Hmm. I'll have to come back to you at the end on the first bit.
Hmm.
But in terms of the second bit, I do think that was just a nice way of wrapping it up. And I think that was always on the cards. I think that's what they planned, and I really do. Again, I just think it worked really well for this era Bond. And
Sure.
I guess for the close off bit, what did you think of the villain?
Oh, I
Also,
wasn't
not,
too
not
impressed. I like Rami Malek, but I wasn't too impressed with this villain because honestly, the motivation was a bit weird. Like, you tell me what was his motivation?
he wanted to kill millions of people to save the world. Apparently, it wasn't population control or anything, but it was more like essentially kill a lot of people, and he also had an infatuation with Madeline Swan because she's tried killing him, and I
Yeah,
guess that
what a
I guess he liked
what
that.
a strange motivation. Like he's got the Thanos thing, but like of wanting to kill people to save people. But I mean, it wasn't really fleshed out. And in such a like a long movie, you would have thought they would have fleshed out his motivation a bit more. And like the thing with Madeline was a bit weird. It's like, uh, he was like, and also like the time, like the age difference was so strange because he was
Oh
like
God, yeah,
he didn't age from when she was a child to when she was a full grown adult.
yeah.
And it
He
was just
should
a
be
bit
like in
odd because
his.
it's like if he fell in love with her when he saved her, she was about 8. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a strange. And then he went back to her to get back at Blofeld. Like it was he could have done that in other ways. It was a strange. I wasn't the biggest fan. He wasn't like a Lashif or a Silver. Like Silver was my favorite villain of the Daniel Craig ones, and he wasn't. I don't think he comes anywhere close to them,
Hmm.
or even I think Blofeld in the last one was a bit better than him. But it's annoying because I love Christoph Waltz, but I wasn't a fan of his Blofeld. Like I thought it was just a bit of a weak character, if I'm being
Hmm.
honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just wasn't a massive fan of it because he didn't really do much. He wasn't in it for very long, considering it's such a long movie.
I feel like, in my opinion, I loved his opening scene. I really loved the fact that
Yeah,
the
me
film
too.
starts with his mission, and we see. I mean, I might be forgetting because again, I haven't watched a lot of the classic Bonds
Hmm.
in a while. I can't remember the last time we had a Bond. I don't think we've ever actually had a Bond opening with a villain that almost turns sympathetic, where they save someone, and
Mm.
I feel like that's such a cool, interest. It's an interesting way to introduce a villain and also set up a villain. And because I feel like how the concept of essentially a henchman, because he's revealed later on to be have been working for Spectre, and then he turned on them. So I really love the idea
Was he?
of yeah
I thought
he's
his family I thought his family were like working with Spectre, but not for like they weren't Spectre themselves. They were just like quite rich and or something. But like he wasn't Spectre. His family were killed by Spectre. I don't
okay
think he
then.
worked for them. Yeah, and I don't think he ever did because he was only a kid when his family died. So I don't think he ever worked for Spectre.
Okay, then makes sense now. I guess I got that mixed up, but yeah, I don't know. I guess what I was trying to say was that I just think that it's cool the idea of a henchman becoming the main bad guy essentially. I guess that's a
Sure.
bit of a
Yeah.
redundant thing now,
I mean,
but
the thing is that does sound like a cool plot, but I don't think that was what his one was. Like that
yeah,
would be a good idea. Maybe you should write a spy thriller with that as the villain.
yeah.
I enjoyed that opening scene. That was like I think that's probably the closest Bond has come to being like horror because that was pretty like the shot of him walking and then you see the house in the distance and then like you see him through the window really
Oh
far away
yeah.
walking over. That was creepy. And then he was like okay, that was creepy. And then like when he was like right next to the window, like he managed to teleport there because like I watched that again because I the first time I was like oh my god he's there, but the second time I went to watch it I was like I'm gonna see like if it made any sense for him to be there in that amount of time, and it doesn't. Like I watched it again, and he just sort of appears, like not like he doesn't walk in. He's just there, and that was kind of creepy. It was supposed to be a jump scare, but I found it a bit like amusing because he was just like, oh, there he is. Like, he popped into existence in front of the window.
he,
But yeah, it
he,
was pretty scary, and I liked
he went to the same school as Batman.
it. Yeah, he just pops in. It's like, oh fucking hell, there he is.
Gotta say though, again, I do agree. I feel like he's not the most interesting villain, but again,
Hmm.
that's sort of a half truth because I do love his backstory and I do love the concept of him being an antagonist in that he wants to essentially save the world by destroying the world. So like the Thanos thing.
Yeah, but that's
But I do
always
feel
the
like
villain, isn't it? That's the villain of the first Kingsman, isn't it? First, the
yeah,
Valentine story. He wants to save the world by killing lots of people.
yeah, and I mean yeah, I do agree though. It's beginning to become a recurring trope,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I just think there's also that it can be done good. Thanks, girls, again interrupting. But yeah, dogs. God damn it, dogs. Just so people have no context.
Dog, damn it.
But yeah, yeah, I feel like he could have been better. I feel Also, if he was in the movie more, because he didn't have a lot of interaction with Bond.
Mm.
I think a lot of his story
Yeah.
was tied mostly to Madeline, which makes sense. But I guess the main where the film does falter is that there's not a lot of dynamic between him and Bond until it's near the end, and that's good.
I
I
mean,
really like those
I
scenes.
don't mind that actually, because like I was thinking it was there's one movie and I don't remember what it is. It might be I really don't remember. It's an old '80s movie where the villain and the main character don't interact at all in throughout the entire movie. Like they're not, there's no personal things between them, but it's still a really good movie. And I think that sounds like a really cool premise of it not being up. And also, I don't think many old classic Bonds have really been a personal thing. Maybe like the occasional, like I mean, GoldenEye was between Sean Bean was the villain in that, but a lot of the old Bonds, it wasn't a personal thing at all. It wasn't like, oh my god, Blofeld's my brother. He's we've known each other for ages. It's like this was the villain left. You have to get rid of him. And I like that more. But like he just wasn't in it. Like that's the thing. Like you said, he just wasn't in it much.
Yeah, I do agree. The classic Bonds are a bit more lenient, I guess, with how the villains were,
Mm.
properly handled in the story and the cat and the interactions with Bond. I just do think that for the modern Craig era, they had a good balance here and there. I mean, Le Chiffre is great, and he doesn't have a lot of a personal connection to Bond, but how
Yeah,
they interact and the tension that they build between each other because of the risks of trying to win the poker game, I think that made it much more enjoyable. And I think the
yeah,
reason we have such a fondness for Silver in Skyfall is because he had such a similar backstory to Bond in that he was an agent, he went down a darker path, and they have this connection to M. So it made their dynamic a lot more interesting and fun, and again, tension-wise, because like, is one of them going to kill M, or was the other going to be able to save M? So I think those are the strongest Craig villains in my opinion. Whereas with Blofeld, as you said, the brothers twist, it's it's again Austin Powers did it already, so it's not exactly
oh
new
my god,
ground.
yeah,
And in
yeah.
terms of how he's handled in the movie too, he's not again. There were better ways I think to to handle it.
Also,
And
I
it,
think it's just a bit of a waste of Christoph Waltz
yeah,
because he's
that
such an
too.
excellent actor and he can be a really great villain. It's just he doesn't have much gravitas in this because the character isn't all there.
Mm,
And actually, I thought that in this movie because the scene with Christoph Waltz where the interrogation scene.
mm,
I wasn't captivated. I wasn't captivated, and I didn't feel like it was one of the amazing like tense conflict talking scenes. Like Christoph Waltz, I think written by if it was written by a better writer, um, then it could have been really dramatic and intense, like Christoph Waltz in Inglorious Bastards.
mm.
The scene in the like near the beginning when he's talking to the bloke who's hiding the Jewish people under the floorboards. That scene was fucking amazing, and it was such an intense scene. And I think they tried to do that sort of thing, or like a Hannibal Lecter thing, but I don't think they quite got it. And also Daniel Craig's acting in that was a bit odd. I thought he was like the way he was talking didn't seem Bond like, or his Bond like, if that's a way of phrasing it. He just felt a bit strange, like he was overacting. I felt, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get the feeling that during the filming of the last one, Craig wasn't at his best, or at the very least, he might have just been going for a lot behind the scenes, and it came through on screen at points. But
Mm.
I think going back to the current film, I do think that this was his A game because I think even he knew at this point, yeah, I'm not doing any more. I am done with this. So
Mm.
yeah, Craig knocked it out of the park for me, and I'm glad he got to do one more because I think we all agree. I think we can all agree that
Yeah.
Spectre wasn't the best way to end it on.
Nope.
Even though I would argue honestly that it has quite an alright ending because I'm
Yeah.
kind of all for Bond like getting a happy ending, going off into the sunset. But I think for the Craig era, which was so built on the Jason Bourne style, realistic and darker side of the world, I think it was a this was also a suitable enough ending. And again, this is drawing a bit more into earlier. Even though I think a lot of big franchises that we've grown up loving have gone down this dark path unnecessarily, like Star Wars, killing off Luke Skywalker, and Doctor Who undoing canon for goddamn no reasons, honestly, at least for now, for all we know, and basically undermining the story. Really, I think this film does it in an intentional and good way because it makes sense for this world. It makes sense for these characters to have a bit of a darker, sadder ending. But it makes sense because again, for the Bond's mission, his entire mission was like, you do these jobs to protect the country, and if you die, you die. That's part of the mission, and it feels natural. And I think that this worked for this film.
What should we talk about that? What do you think about Bond's death?
Oh boy, I'm not gonna lie, I really liked it. The moment that he got the vial on his face, I knew from that point, yeah, there was no going back with this. I had some thoughts, had some doubts at points that he might be able to find a loophole, but the moment that the vial cracked, I knew that yeah, this was going to be his end game, and a part of me kind of wanted to see a bit more, especially considering the confrontation was a bit short between him and Rami. Like, what's
Mm.
his name? The villain,
Safin?
Safin. Sorry, but I didn't mind. I liked it. I mean, in terms of the actual ending, the death, I really loved that.
Mm.
His final
Yeah, me
moments,
too.
staring up at the sky, and his
The
last
stance,
words.
his stance was so cool.
Yeah, the getup they made him wear. Great job on that
I love that.
marketing.
I loved that outfit, man. I was like, I think that was the thing I took most out of this movie. That I loved the last outfit he wore. Actually, it's funny when I went to see it in the cinema. I loved it so much in the trailers. I wore that. Like I got the pieces to make that outfit with the white button up and the braces and the cargo trousers. And I was like, oh, this is great. I love his outfit. I'm gonna wear it. And then I wore it. I was like, oh my god, I'm wearing the outfit he dies in.
Oh, oh no.
I know.
God damn it! I want to try and get that jumper now.
The jumper is so expensive. Like the actual jumper, you can get the real one from the movie, and it's 350 quid.
Oh,
I know. Just buy a navy jumper.
god damn it! God damn it! British clothes. Why do you have to be so
I know.
expensive? But
I
then
know.
again, we do know why.
Well, it's
There.
Bond, isn't it? His watch costs about £10,000.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
that's not an exaggeration. I'm pretty sure it's about 9,000
yeah. Bond only
for his
has the
watch.
best.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the ending, I feel like it was great. I loved how it was done, executed, and I feel like it was a very bittersweet but very acceptable ending. What do you think about What do you think about the ending?
Well, I think they could have easily done a better. Not easily. I say that as if I'm a writer. I'm not a writer. I can know bollocks all. But I think they could have had a better ending with the fact that he has to die. Like I don't think in that he had to die. Like I think he could have got out in time, and I think he could have. I know it would have been like hard for him, but he could have had a life where he spent time with his family without physically being with them or like being so close that they would die. I think they could have got could have gotten away with that. I think they should have done the thing where he got the vial so he couldn't talk to them or couldn't meet them. Like that's sure, keep that in. But I think they could have had it where he had to actively do something to open the doors, um, like because he just sort of opened them again and then waited for the bombs to come in. I think if he had to like hold the lever or something like that, so he had to stay there. I don't think he had to stay there, so he could have feasibly got out of there. But I think just a way of him having to stay there would have been a bit more poignant because like he's like, oh well, I have to stay here now, and then begrudgingly dying rather than being like, oh yeah, this is probably my time, you know.
Mm, I agree. I think that could have been a bit more of a bittersweet angle to it.
Hmm.
What do you think of Bond's last words?
Oh, I man, I so when he said that in the car scene in the beginning, he said that, and then the music from On a Majesty Secret Service came up.
All the time in the world?
Yeah, who's it by? Louis Armstrong. When the Louis Armstrong song like came on, like just the instrumental, I like in the beginning I started tearing up because I was like, oh, that's it, what a nice callback. And then he said it again. I was like, oh my god. And then when that music played in the credits, I was like, ah! I was an absolute mess. I found it so funny, but I loved. I think what a excellent last words. I think that is like the best last words you could possibly give Bond.
Mm. I think out of all the Craig, I mean, I can say this honestly in my book. Out of all the Bond actors over the years in their last film, this is the most punch when it comes to last words. The last word in
Hmm.
this film, the last words in for the character,
Well,
and
yeah,
I
that's the
think
last words for Bond in general because he's dead. Like the other ones, they had the last words, but they didn't die. They just kept going, like in their own missions that you don't see. But this is the death of Bond. It's a bit more poignant.
mm, and I think even just more the context makes it that much more heartbreaking too.
Hmm.
And spinning off
Yeah.
from that, what do you think of Bond having a child?
I that took me by surprise because I didn't hear anything, any rumors, any pictures, any. I didn't know that was coming at all. And also, I felt weird when she straight up said to him, "This is not your child." I was like, "Oh, it's not his child. That's fine." I completely went over my head. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's not his child. It's fine." But obviously it was. And then I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting way of having it, where it's Bond's never had a family before. Like he's almost gotten married. He's got married once, but then she died instantly in on a Majesty's Secret Service, and then in Casino Royale or Quantum of Solace, whichever one. I think it was Casino Royale. Um, he's never really had a family apart from that, and it's a really interesting way of taking it, and it makes sense for his last. Um, for this story, it makes sense, but for I think Bond in general, it doesn't seem like the sort of thing you'd expect. You'd expect Bond to to die young, I guess, in doing a mission or something like that. You wouldn't expect him to ever have a family or settle down, but he does that quite a lot in Daniel Craig's one.
Yeah, I feel like the Craig Bond is a bit more sympathetic, at least compared to the source material a lot of the time. And I feel like this feels like more of a natural outcome for him, especially when he meets someone. I mean, at least in the context of the movie, when he meets someone like Madeline, and I feel like it's a nice change up too, because even though people can chalk it up to it's an expected trope at this point to give the character a child to have them be a drive for the main character to win the movie, win the day, save the day, or die saving them. I feel like again, from how everything was set up with the Craig era, this feels like a natural direction. And I'm not gonna lie, I had my thoughts because I follow another YouTuber, a Bond YouTuber called I think his name's Calvin Harris. I apologize if I butchered that name there, but he's a very big Bond fan. I really love his content, and off the top of my head, I recall him doing an episode like maybe last year where they briefly talked about the possibility of Bond having a child, and even back then it was like up and down if it was true or not. But the moment we saw that kid, I thought instantly back to that episode the guy did, and I thought, yeah, the rumors were true. That's Bond's kid, and I didn't.
I'm surprised I didn't come through any of those rumors at all.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I kind of thought that would have been a big thing to leak, especially when it was at the time where it was. Well, I think it was meant to be around the time that the film was meant to be released last year. But yeah, that aside though, I liked it. I think I'm saying that's a lot so far, but I think everything I can say about this film, I liked it. I still think it has some problems. I do think again the villain could have been executed bit differently, a bit more
Yeah,
naturally. Not
they could have taken so many. I think we haven't even talked about Felix.
no no.
Felix,
Oh yeah,
the Felix
Felix.
part of it, Felix and Anya de Amas's character, that they were great, but like I think they could have just had their own, not their own movie, but they could have had a separate movie with those guys and Bond. Like I think this movie could have easily been separated into two movies, and just like tweaked a bit so they would both work.
Hmm,
Like the Felix entire subplot I think could have been cut and it would have made sense.
yeah. Well, um, I didn't mind it. I didn't know. I didn't mind how he was handled because it did feel like yeah,
Oh
it
no,
makes
I
sense
love
to.
Felix. He's a great character, and so is she. Just that whole section could have been cut out.
Yeah, I feel like that was one of the highlight moments of the movie for me. I do think that I'm a bit disappointed that he got killed off too because a part
Yeah,
of me
me
did
too.
also feel like that was just done by committee because it was the last one. But I
Hmm.
still think it was done okay. And I will say this: I really loved that his death almost parallels Vesper's.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's even maybe shot in the same way where he's falling into the water, like after he
yeah. I
dies.
think it is. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I think. I think among the things I would have preferred they do differently. Again, Safin. Do you
Yeah.
know about the rumor that he could have been Doctor No?
Um, I mean, that's what I thought. That's what me and my dad both thought that was going to happen in this. Is that because it's Daniel Craig's last one, and there's the word "no" is in the title. But also, at the end, his hand gets like snapped off, and like Doctor No has a mechanical bionic hand, whichever one. So that like that's what we thought was going to happen. It's just maybe it was supposed to happen, but they just sort of cut that bit out.
Maybe because I
But
mean,
I didn't actually hear about the rumor first. I just had a thought in my mind.
yeah, because I mean the implications are all there. I mean, I believe again. I'm thinking of this off the top of my head, but the mask he wears at the beginning of the movie, I think it's called like a niao or something. Again, I'll put it up on
Hmm.
screen if I'm butchering it again. But again, that translates to no or something. So that was the one that people were jumping
Wow.
on, and there's also the fact
Yeah.
that I think from the trailers, there's a trailer where you see him breathe after he got shot by Madeline, and he's clearly shot in the heart area, and I can't recall if they ever explain how he survived that. Maybe it was just
No,
a lucky shot.
they maybe he just had a bulletproof vest because he did sort of basically come back to life, didn't he? Because he got shot off the balcony and was like dead out of it, and then he just sort of woke up. So oh, bloody hell,
Yeah,
he's immortal.
yeah, but he's a Highlander.
So Sean Connery,
but
it's all connected.
yeah, yeah, he's shot in the heart. He survives, and I think one of the minor. I don't know if it's in the film, but in one of the, I think in Doctor No's book, in the Doctor No book, he's revealed to have his heart on the right side of his chest instead of the left. So that's why when he is
Okay,
shot in the left side, he doesn't die or something.
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that those are clues that I think definitely could have made sense for him to be a version of Doctor No. And
Hmm.
I'm not gonna. I kind of wish they did go with that because
Yeah,
I
me
think it,
too.
it would have been a bit poetic that the last Craig film the last Craig film with essentially has the villain from the very first Bond film.
Hmm. Well, like they got Blofeld in the last one. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I think I'd say I felt we're almost skipping to the end. Then we're holding back for other stuff. But yeah, I think I can say I think they could have done better. I mean, I still think they should have brought back
Yeah.
was it Mr. Hicks, the henchman from
Oh
the
yeah,
last
but
one?
he got chucked off a train,
Yeah, I kind
didn't
of
he?
thought he would come back, but yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
I
Dave
mean,
Batista.
he's somewhere in what country were they? What country were they in on that train? Was it Mexico? I've got Mexico on my mind for some reason. Might not
It
be.
was a desert, but yeah,
Yeah, it was a desert.
he's probably in some bar just chalking down mojicas or something. It's like I
Yeah.
survived Bond.
No, he doesn't speak. He just says shit, doesn't he? That's the only thing he says. He just goes shit
yeah, I've got Geek
and
of
drinks a
Guardians. I'll
drink.
be fine. But
Wow.
yeah, I'd say for a close off, would you say you're quite happy with this final outing?
Yeah, I think so. I think. Well, I mean, can't have anything else, can we? This has happened, and this is his last one. So, but yeah, I think it's a good send off because, well, lots of people don't think it's a good send off and don't think it's the swan song that it could have been. But I enjoyed it for what it was, and like thing is, you see lots of people who aren't necessarily Bond fans not liking it, but me and my dad are like my dad especially is like the most Bond person I know. Like he loves James Bond, and like, I love James Bond not as much as him. And we both really enjoyed it. So I think it was made for the audiences. Like when going back to the thing about like the agenda that it was trying to be made for new audiences. I think it gets that, but in a good way. Like it's made for new audiences who haven't really seen it before, and it has today's like 2021 ideology, but in like the good part of it anyway. Um, like and it's also made for classic fans, and I think lots of people will like this, and I do anyway. Like me being a new fan essentially because I'm quite young, and my dad being an old fan because he's quite old. We both really liked it, and I think it's made for the audiences that it should be made for.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
agree.
I liked it.
I think again, opinions can change, and I'm sure once I actually get to see it a second time and see on TV, probably I might think a bit more on the negative side. But
Yeah,
I,
that's what happened to me when I saw it for the second time. I wasn't like massively into it the second time, but I still did enjoy it.
Hmm.
Like that's the thing. I still enjoyed it.
But yeah, but I can from my own personal track record. I've all the films and shows that I've watched that have gone down this political, drama path, and they've turned out bad because of it. I generally can pick up. I've picked up when I didn't like it pretty soon afterwards, and I can say even though even though I've only had a first viewing, I'm confident in saying I enjoyed this film, and if by chance it's still in theaters, go and see it. I think people will enjoy it. I think
Yeah.
Bond fans will like it if they can get past a few things. And getting past those few things, they're not even bad. I think they're just a bit different for something for the first time that we're seeing in a Bond film. And I think if you can look past it, death of Bond, the main thing, I guess. But, yeah, I think you they'll enjoy it.
Hmm. Before we do wrap up, though, there are a couple of points that I completely forgot to talk about when we were actually in discussion about this bloody movie we're talking about.
Sure.
There's only a couple of things. It's only like small little details, but in when the title sequence started and came up, they had the colourful dots on on the titles and on all the words that were in Doctor No. Like that's the title sequence for Doctor No was just the dots, which I think was a nice little nod. Um, Bond in this gets fucked up so bad, but he's completely fine. Like he gets blown up twice, and he's fine. He falls off a bridge and he's fine. He gets shot in the back and he's fine. Like he gets shot so many times in this movie and he's completely fine every time. Like in the first time it happens is when like he's on the bridge and he gets shot in the back and he's like, oh, what was that? Like he gets shot on the shoulder and like a bullet goes in him and he's like, oh dear, what was that? Then he's completely fine. Then he jumps off the bridge and he's fine. And then like when the explosion from the grave happens, he's right next to it and it explodes on him. He can't hear for a bit and then he's fine. It's like, Christ, what's happening? And then like in the last scene or the last sequence when there's a grenade like in the hallway, like he gets dropped, a grenade drops on him in a stairwell, he just jumps out of the way, he's fine, and then another grenade is literally in front of him and explodes. He's like, what? But that's not how grenades work. He would be completely obliterated. Like, what happened? And then when Safin shoots him, he shoots him so many times, and he's like, oh, ow, 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 ow. And then he's like, okay, I'm fine. I was like, oh, Christ. He goes through so much in this, and it doesn't affect him at all, except for the final explosion that actually does kill him.
The Kevlar is strong with this one.
But he's not even wearing that. He's wearing, like, normal clothes. So that's another point. And the last thing that I just remembered is when Naomi or Nomi is with the Russian scientist, who I'm not sure if the actor's actually Russian or not, but he sounds like he's putting on a fake like an obviously fake Russian accent. It's like, oh yes, I am a Russian doctor. I am good doctor Russian. It's like, okay, but when they're like she's like,
I was just gonna
okay,
say maybe it was just the lines he was given.
yeah, maybe just the delivery was just a bit. Oh yes, I'm a Russian spy. When Nomi is like holding him and dragging him away when they're in the compound, like she just straight up kills him. There was not any need to kill. Like he said a racist thing, sure, but he probably would have been quite useful. And like to say like yeah, sure he was racist, but that's not reason to actually murder someone. Well, I mean, he could be, but like, you know, she was like, "Oh, what's the time?" And he was like, "I don't know. I time to die."
Hey,
okay.
she said it. Name drop.
But why? You need
drop.
him. Well, that's the thing. Okay, that's actually quite funny because when like the title came out, or like the discussion about Doctor No came up, I was like, I wonder if it's gonna be a shit line, and it was. I wonder if it was gonna be like James Bond was gonna. Like the title is a sentence, and he says, "No, time to die," as in Doctor No, time to die, and then he kills him. You know, it's strange.
Yeah,
It's
I
strange.
think people can make arguments for and against it, but yeah, I do agree that I think some line delivery could have been done a bit better, and I think Naomi's killing of the scientist. I'm not right. I kind of agreed with it mostly because the guy was openly admitting to willing to kill millions for the sake of science. And yeah, add on that
Yeah, this is
he
true.
was going out of his way to be cruel to her. I think, and considering her status as a double O, it's within her job extinction. It's within a job description to kill people like this. You had to protect the country, and we know how the government works. They would have likely brought him back and then made him do other stuff that could have fucked up the future world.
Hmm.
So yeah, she honestly, yeah, she did us a favor in my book. But I do agree. I do think
Sure,
that
sure.
maybe under different circumstances, there didn't be so much meaningless death. But again, for a Bond film and considering the circumstance, I thought it was okay.
Fair enough.
I will agree though. God damn it, the amount of times Bond gets shot. How is he not dead? How is he not dead in the
Hmm.
first 10 minutes?
Yep. Well, that's the thing. He goes through so much and then he does die. It's like, oh, okay,
Now
sure.
that's a twist. Yeah. Anything else?
Um, no. I like the cars.
Of course you do. Your family have that in common.
Yeah,
Then again, I can't deny the cars looked really good. Yeah.
they were good, and he used all the gadgets. Oh, I was so happy when he used the smoke screen and the tire spikes.
And the Gatling
It was so
guns.
cool. Yeah, I mean the Gatling guns, obviously, but he used all the other ones too. It's funny. The that car has a bulletproof shield that comes up the back, but the entire car is bulletproof, seemingly. Because the dude was shooting out the window at the same spot for ages, and it was like that reminded me of Winter Soldier when they had the massive ram that was hitting into Fury's car. It reminded me of
So,
that
like,
scene.
take that, Connery.
Um,
My car is
but
bulletproof. What about yours?
oh yeah, yeah, Lazenby's car fucking they just killed his wife, and this one is like yeah I got a bulletproof car. But that little tiny Aston Martin was rammed into by a Land Rover, and the Land Rover was fucked up, and the car was fine. It's like, oh bloody MI6 can put in a proper good shield in this car if it can withstand a fucking side-on collision with a Land Rover.
God, the magic of movies.
The magic of Q.
God, I hope Q comes
Oh,
back.
Q. Right, we didn't even talk about this. Right, Q is gay. He's just one line. I thought it was quite funny because it was one line that was like, "Oh yeah, Q's gay," and it's like, well, that line's obviously going to be cut out of the Chinese
Yeah, likely.
viewing, isn't it? They can't they didn't want to go in with this character the decision that this character's gay. They didn't want to do it we're like yeah Q's gay and everything like that. They were just like, oh yeah he is. Maybe he isn't. If you're in China, he might not be. like it was a strange addition. It's fine with me, but it was a strange addition. But it was also a bit odd that they didn't that it was just a one line thing that could have
Hmm.
just been cut out. That
Yeah,
probably
I
was
mean,
cut out. For where in countries where for some reason it's still
oh, yeah.
illegal.
God damn it. Yeah, I feel like that's. Hmm. Honestly, I didn't even. I noticed it, but I almost didn't register it at first. I just thought that was just another Q scene, and then literally a second later, I'm like, oh, oh, so they did that too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like, oh okay,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
sure.
I can't deny that I wasn't really bothered by it. I didn't really focus because it wasn't honestly a main big. Thankfully, they didn't make a big deal
Hmm.
out of it because that's how you tell good stories. You make it part of the story and the character. And yeah, we didn't need to know about Q's personal life because that's not important to the story. So I'm glad they committed to that aspect of it. But yeah, I do agree. I think that was it really necessary to give him a boyfriend because we never see them on screen. Yeah, I don't think they needed to do it. So but yeah, I don't know. I guess for a modern audience and a modern film, and considering this version of Q, and we know that Q, I mean, in the original series, Q was a bit of a ladies' man himself from that one scene in Octopussy. so so yeah, I'm not out of the idea of Q getting some action at some point in the future, as long as it's not with Bond.
I mean, why not? But like in Skyfall, Bond said that it wasn't his first time, so maybe it was Q. You know when Silver says, "Oh, Mr. Bond," maybe that was
Yeah,
Q. Oh my god. Oh no, can't have been.
yeah.
Can't have been. They didn't know each
I
other.
just also think that it would
They
just
didn't know
make
each other
it would
before the
make the
movie.
workplace
Yeah.
so awkward.
Yeah. Um, Also, Q's got a a, a drawer like in his proper official military jet. He's got a drawer full of teacups. I thought that bit was so funny. I was like, what an unnecessary thing to put in that was just so funny and
You
British. I loved it.
Brits.
Yeah, he just had a fucking like it was like in what was funny about it is it was in like the I don't know what it is, like the foam that they cut out to put things in so things like they
Yeah.
don't get destroyed. And it was just teapot. It was great.
God, I love Q.
Q is good. I like Q. I always like Q. I like when it was John Cleese. I liked when it was I don't know I don't know the actor's name before, but before it was John Cleese, it was that bloke, and I really loved him. And Dwayne Wishaw in this, he's great. They're all great. Um, is it Naomi Harris? Moneypenny, she's great. I like her. They're all good characters and actors.
So, mate, I got to ask. Looking forward to the future, what do you think we can expect from the next Bond film? Do you have any thoughts on what we could
Oof.
see or expect, or if you want to see?
Um, there's so yeah, I can still go what I want to see, but I don't. I can't possibly say because I think they said that the next James Bond actor is not going to be talked about until 2022. So we can only speculate until then. But I don't know what they might do. Um, but I can only say what I would like. But me personally, I'd like them to be more light-hearted, not in like a. I don't know because I like the old like the Roger Moore stuff where it was like funny and a bit campy, and I'd like that to come back, but not like to its detriment. I don't think to like I'd like it to be sort of more like Man from Uncle, where it was light-hearted, but there was also serious moments and modern action. I don't think it should be corny. Like, corny is what I wouldn't like it to be. But I
Hmm.
think just a bit more light-hearted, like Kingsman, I guess it was a bit light-hearted and a bit more silly, but nothing too bad. Do you want to? So, because I know what you want it to be and what you and your dad said, but and I have points that like I have things to expand on from that. So, do you want to say what you'd like to see?
Sure. I would say because I mean this is a rumor that's been around I think since Spectre, the film Spectre, but it's something that's persisted because I think it is quite an interesting direction for them to go in. I'm confident because again, if you've seen the movie, you know it ends with the cap with the little the common little quote at the end: "James Bond will return." So yeah, we're gonna get more. Don't worry about that. But I feel like what they're gonna it's gonna I think from how what this film ended, it's gonna have the next one is gonna have to be another reboot because there's no way
Hmm.
of continuing this story. And they're definitely, even though I think Naomi was an alright character, I don't think people are going to want to see her as the new Bond because she is not Bond. You can't replace Bond. And I feel
Yeah,
like,
well, you can. They've done it 6 times.
yeah, but I feel like what they're going to have to do is another clean cut reboot. And the best way for them to do that without becoming repetitive, because again, if they rebooted it with like another actor and it's the same thing with them saying the same like the present day, bit serious, maybe a bit of humor here and there, I feel like they'll fall into the what is it the MCU trap where it's the same thing, it's the same tone, it's the next Marvel film,
Same formula.
yeah, the same formula. I feel like they'll get a bit repetitive because the Craig era was clearly influenced by the success of the Bourne Identity, and I feel like that's had its time. I mean, that series hasn't been continued for I think over almost a decade now. So
Is it really?
yeah, I think the
Yeah,
last Bond
I
film was
didn't
like
like the last one.
2012 or something.
Wow. Bloody hell.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Bond is in need of a good renovation, and I think the best thing for them to do, the best way to do it for that, the best way to do that would be to basically take them back in time, have the story be set in the 60s, and basically be essentially kind of like The Man from Uncle, where, as you said, it's a bit more tongue in cheek, but it's played quite serious, and it's not. entering parody levels like it was in the Moore era. But I feel like they need to change up the tone a bit to be a bit more light-hearted, a bit more fun, a bit more crazy with the gadgets and the adventures and the
Hmm.
action. And I think the '60s would be a perfect way to set the tone like that. I mean, if they wanted, they could maybe say the '70s, swinging '70s and all that. But
It's the swinging 60s.
sorry, yeah, swinging
Uh,
'60s.
What was the 70s called?
I don't know.
I don't think I don't
I'm sure your dad can think of it.
know.
But yeah, I think overhauling the series to a new setting in the '70s, '60s, sorry, would it be a great way in indicating to the audience that it's a fresh take, and I think it would also be a great way of differentiating the next Bond from this past era. I think it's a shame we're probably never going to be able to go back to the we just sort of carry on without acknowledging it thing they did for the last few Bond actors, because I think that was a nice way of also doing it. But I think after what they did with the Craig era, this is in need of a perfect overhaul, revamp, reboot. So going forward, I think future Bond actors will be getting the reboot treatment as well. And I think this will be for this next actor, for this next era of Bond, would be the best way, in my eyes at least, to reshape everything. What say you?
Mm. Yeah, I had the same thought like ages ago that it should be in the 60s. I think I heard that it was Tarantino. I don't know when it was, but Tarantino was approached to. I think he was approached to make Casino Royale, or like something around like in between after the last Pierce Brosnan one. He was approached to make one, and he wanted to set it in the 60s. And I think he might have wanted to cast Pierce Brosnan in it as well. It might I can't I might be getting my facts wrong because I might be thinking that they wanted to make Casino Royale with Pierce Brosnan, but either way, Tarantino wanted to make it in the 60s, and I think ever since I heard that, the idea stuck in my head that that would be a really cool place to go because they could go back to Doctor No and all the Connery era where all the gadgets were around, all like basically be like a period movie, which I think would be pretty cool. But then I had the thought that they could do that, but then they could also, and I think it would have to be its own like essentially like an era with one Bond where they do about 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know how many it is. I need to do the math. Do one movie set in each decade from the 60s leading up to the present day. So the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. So that's six,
Hmm.
and then maybe the modern day, which would be seven, but that might be too many. So I think they should go from, and they would do tropes from each one, and costumes and cars and everything from each one of them, but as a standalone separate movie with the same cast, like a not a soft reboot in each time, but just like a same cast in each one, but no connections. Like I think that I'm not the biggest fan of in the Daniel Craig era is all the through lines in each movie, like and the connection between the first one and the last one, and like the sequels, like from the Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, and then like Spectre in this one, the new one is their sequels essentially. I don't like that they're all interconnected and there's all like a overarching plot line, and like Spectre was part of responsible for Le Chiffre and Silver. Like they're all part of the same thing. I don't like that that's all connected. I think they should all be completely separate standalone stories of just a mission. Like that's the thing also that I modern lots of spy things as well, but like lots of movies have got personal stakes, and like sure that is a good way of like um portraying a movie to have personal stakes between the villain and the like main character. Obviously that's the thing, but I'd like it if it for spy movies. I think they should just have like missions, because not every single villain knows the the James Bond or is affected by what M has done to them in the past. Like there's a lot of like most in real life. There's no connection at all. It's like lots of like terrorist groups. They don't have any connection to us. Like or to like not the hero to say, but like I just don't like the constant wanting to there to be a massive
Interconnected story.
overarching plot. Yeah, yeah. I think they should all be their own thing, so you could just drop into any one of them, and you don't need any context.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I
But yeah.
think that whatever happens with the next era of Bond, it has to almost go back to basics, like the classic eras, where it was more about each film was based on a book that was a singular beginning, middle, and end story. And I think,
Hmm.
I mean, I'll say this: I don't know why they've decided to not adapt any of the books since. I think I want
I think there isn't many to adapt. The last one they adapted was Casino Royale,
Casino Royale.
because
Yeah, sorry.
I think there is just one or two more stories left to adapt, and one of them is called James Bond in New York.
Yeah,
So I don't, it's not a great title. I think the other one's called The Property of a Lady.
yeah.
I think that's the other
I
one.
always remember
But I
that
think
one.
they're the only two that haven't been adapted
I always remember that one because that was
yet.
meant. I think that was meant to be. What's his name? Not George Lazenby. Timothy Dalton. That was meant to be his third film before
Mm.
they cancelled it. And I,
Oh
I
sure.
even had a time where I remember I was in college and I did an ET class or some lesson where we had to make fake movie posters, and
Oh
I
sure.
made a fake movie poster for Spectre before we knew the title of the next Bond film, and I called it A Property of a Lady.
Nice.
But yeah, yeah.
That's funny. I did a James Bond related project in college.
Oh, cool.
I made a title sequence
Oh, how did that go?
for my own. I mean, the ideas in my mind were way cooler than what I actually managed to produce. But I called the title Blood Red Rose.
Oh, what was the context?
Ooh, isn't that exciting? There wasn't any.
Oh, how exciting!
I know. No, it was like lots of roses and snow and guns and chips, poker chips. Blonde things.
Sounds like a promising way to open a film.
It was. I thought it was pretty cool, but I had the ideas were better than the product.
Yeah, I think. What was I saying again? I think I've got sidetracked.
Um, about adapting Bond
Yes, that's
titles.
it. I
Yeah.
think. I think with them, you're right. There are only a few books left for them to pick titles from, but I also do think that there's plenty of other books not written by Fleming, written by Fleming that they could borrow the story or the titles from. I mean, they are part of the IP still.
Well, James Bond.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I
What?
know. I think it's Anthony Horowitz. He wrote a Bond book a few years ago called Trigger Mortis, and that's a sequel to Goldfinger. If I recall
Is
rightly.
it like legit though? Like I mean, like I know it might be Bond, but is it like an actual
Yeah,
in the
from how I
series?
remember, it's licensed by the company that make Bond. So I guess it's up to the reader if it's considered canon because it's not written by Fleming, and I'm sure there are people out there who only
Hmm.
consider Fleming's work to be the true canon. But it's sort of
Yeah,
like,
like me.
but it is sort of like how like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it's just got the trilogy and then that's it. But there are like two sequels to so far to it, and depending on the fan or the author, that it's considered canon. So sort of a similar thing. I do think that there are multiple titles for Bonds that they could still pull through. Again, Trigger Mortis is a cool title that I think could work for a new Bond film for the next one. But I would agree. Also, it would depend if they want to keep it pure and make original titles instead
I mean,
of
they could
that.
they could just hire the authors of these ones to write this film script,
Yeah, they could.
or like or like work with them to get it adapted. Like that would be cool.
Hmm.
It would still be Ian Fleming's James Bond, but it would just be different writer.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess when it comes to the next Bond film, I hope that they do change it up and make it a bit more different because I think the franchise is again nothing's. It's always good to have a bit of change to make things feel fresh, and I think Bond is in need of
Yeah,
a bit of an overhaul.
it needs to adapt.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Bond does adapt, like how he's become Jason Bourne in this sort of series. I think, me personally, I reckon the next, if they do like another sort of era of Bond, like a proper era, I think it might be a more light-hearted one because I think we're getting away from dark and gritty to more light-hearted things, but not necessarily light-hearted, but more or just less dark. I think I hope that's where it goes anyway. I mean, that's what I want, but I reckon that's where it will go because that's I think more things are getting like Marvel, for instance. Like that's like light-hearted, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah,
And I think more things will be like that now
yeah. I think after the last
because
few
people like that.
Yeah, after the last few years that have been very quite a downer, I think we can all agree on that. I feel like people are getting real sick of a lot of these big products just going down dark paths, and a lot of it's for no reason. It's really just because like the mindset of these filmmakers are in the gutter per se, good or bad. And even in Bond's case, even though I think No Time to Die is good, I'm sure people will watch it and not like it because it has such a downer ending
Oh
for
yeah.
essentially. And I think people are more excited to go to a film and be entertained and be feel happy about locking away their real lives for just a moment and just enjoying being a spy on a fun adventure and having fun doing quips or being a superhero flying in a suit of armor and saving the day. I think I do agree. I think that people are looking for fun entertainment, and Marvel has clearly understood that for some time, which is why they're still making movies about it. So I think Bond, if they use Mad for Uncle by Guy Ritchie as a template,
Yeah.
I think that could give Bond a good direction to go through for the next 5 or maybe 10 years if they want to. I think they could at least get 3 films out of that concept.
Yeah. I hope they do.
Hmm. So yeah, I guess the thing I want to close off with if is just two more things. The first thing, when we can expect it. Now, I have a personal theory here, and I will say I think what's going to happen is that next year is going to be, I think it's the 60th anniversary of Bond. Is it?
Yeah, because is it? Because no, yeah, it must be because Skyfall was the 50th anniversary, and that was
Yeah,
2012.
yeah.
So yeah, next year will be 10 years since
Yeah,
then.
so I feel like next year, when Bond turns 60, what's going to happen is we're going to have the big reveal then. That I, I could be completely wrong, they might announce it much sooner, but I feel like what they're going to do is they're going to let No Time to Die sinking into the general public. People are going to accept that's the ending of this era of Bond, and then come the big anniversary celebration event, they're going to confirm who the next Bond actor will be.
Actually, I'm just going to look up when Doctor No came out
Hmm.
because then that will probably be around then when they do it. Yeah, because they did. There has been they did, October the 5th. So I guess this time uh, next year around roughly. But yeah, they I have seen that they aren't gonna talk about the new Bond until next year. So that would
They've
make
got
sense.
almost a full year to think of what they want to do. So I feel like what they're going to do is they're going to reveal the next Bond during that big event where everyone will be talking about Bond, and that will put the attention on the next era. And if that is the case, if we get the next Bond by the end of next year, that leaves them for the whole of 2023 to plan out a story, probably film it, or maybe even just like plan out the story, and they could film it by next year. So if this all happens and it all goes to plan, if there's no delays on it, I do predict that we could possibly get the next Bond film as early as 2025.
Still a long time. Yeah,
Yeah, feels like a long
yeah.
time considering where we are right now. But honestly, I think that would be the safest and quickest that I'd say without it being entering rushed
Mm.
territory.
Do you reckon Barbara Broccoli will stay on as like producer, or do you reckon she'll be like that? I've done enough. Now I'll lead it on to someone else to sort of spearhead
I
it.
could be completely wrong, but I do think she's going to stick around because I mean this is the
Yeah.
franchise that her father had an involvement in when he created it. So I feel like I think it's almost a an own to her family that she has to keep going with this. And I think considering this film's making
Hmm.
decent profit, like last I checked, I think they need to. I mean, there's no need for her really to step down. She's not Kathleen Kennedy. She hasn't done anything heavily controversial to earn the ear of fans and the to lose the trust of the execs. I think if anything, she's strengthened that because I think this movie was all right. So I don't see her stepping away. I mean, if she's planning to have her kids take over at some point, maybe in the next
Hmm.
20 years or so. But or if she's going to hand it over to another exec that she trusts with her dear life. But I think we've got Broccoli around for at least another decade. But again, for all I know, she's probably she's probably planning retirement as we speak. But yeah, I guess my last thought on the Bond 26 discussion is what what do we think is going to be the next? Who do we think is going to be the next? Who do we think is going to be the next Bond? So
Oh, bloody hell. I think we've had this chat before, haven't we?
yeah, we did. It's
Um,
like 2 years ago now. I want to say two
yeah.
years, but yeah, we again people can watch those videos if they want some our thoughts from back then. But in context to now, I wouldn't say I've changed too much. I think the choices I suggested back then, I think they're still possible candidates that I would like to see. But in light of time, life, and in light of seeing the new Bond film, honestly, I feel like what they will probably do is go for a full-on clean slate. I think they're going to have to bring in a completely unknown actor and give us a fresh face because I just do feel like with the current climate, I think there's plenty of choices that people can have good arguments about why they should be cast and be the next Bond. Again, right now, Henry Cavill is everywhere in the charts to be the next Bond, and
I don't think so, man. I really
mm,
don't.
I knew you'd say that. But yeah, I am. I do think that the safest bet for them would be to bring in a completely new actor, maybe someone in their late 20s, early 30s at the oldest.
I think that's too young, man. I think like they have to be like 30s, mid 30s, or more. I think I think 20s is too young. Like I remember you saying before that you said that you might want a really like a proper origin story for Bond, where you see him young, like a young man in the navy,
Yeah,
and I guess they could go that route.
what I would like them to do if I was put in charge of the next Bond film, what I would like to do is have the movie start off with or a montage of Bond growing up. It doesn't have to be like literally from his birth, but it basically shows him as a kid with his family. You don't directly see their faces or them, but they're just having a normal life together. And then like again, I can't remember off the top of my head how the story goes from the books or from the films, but show basically him having a bit of life with his family, have his parents die in the avalanche, and then see him getting recruited into the army, and then cue the opening, and then we can cut to Bond on his first mission. And how it would go would be that would be the mission that gets the attention of MI6, and that's how he gets recruited to MI6. And that was basically getting his full on origin without basically doing what they did with Casino Royale, where we see his first double O mission, because that's all we needed at the time for that fresh take. I think for this fresh take, if they want to sort of do the same thing but in a different way, I think that would be one way to do it. Alternatively, they could do the safer route and just have him already be double O, already do this other stuff, and just be on a mission. Hardy hard next
Mm.
day, next mission.
I think if he's just gonna start as Double O, then I think it's more likely that they'll do the 60s, 70s, like the old Bond. But I think if they start him as a young man in the Navy as his origin, I think that in my mind, they'll have to do like a modern day Bond if he's young and like starting out.
Mm. Yeah, true. But yeah, I do think that the idea of a Bond film opening with him in his youth, jumping to his first years in the army in his as a commander, and then cut to 5, 10 years later, he's now a double O, and that's the story for the rest of the movie. I think that would be a cool way to start a new era for Bond, and also have it be a different way to do it. But yeah, I can agree. I think that probably would fit more if it was more of a modern contemporary setting as opposed to a 60s period piece. But yeah, I think that's how I would handle it. And in terms of the actors, yeah, I would rather go for an unknown at this point. I still think again the chosen ones I selected before could be good candidates. Where they are now in their careers, possibly couldn't happen. You never know, I guess. But I think the safest bet would be to give us an unknown actor and give us a completely fresh start.
Um, Yeah, I mean, fresh start would like a brand new face for a fresh start would be possibly a good way to go because like with Daniel Craig, it was um, he was a known actor. He wasn't like a massive celebrity, but he was a known actor. So maybe someone like that, where he's been in a few things, but he's not like um, worldwide. You know, he's just maybe a like he's been in Hollyoaks. No, I don't know. Please don't. Not Hollyoaks. Anything but that. I mean, like The Bill or something. You know, he's been in some drama, like some British dramas. He's not really a world household name is the phrase I'm looking for.
Hmm.
They do that. I reckon they do that, or they cast someone who's massive celebrity already, and then like I think there's literally the only those two ways are the only ways of doing it, and it's either new face or celebrity actor who people really want it to be. But I doubt that they'd go with that. That they'd go with someone that everyone says it might be, because they'll just be like, nah, I'm not gonna do what the public say. But it's really, I think it's too early. One, it's too early to say. Also, we're not involved. How are we gonna know? It's gonna be a surprise either way. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say this. I look forward to the day we'll be back in that Bond mood and we'll be able to get excited for the next actor and the next film. But right now,
Mm.
I'm quite content with how things are. I'm glad we got the film we got, and I'm looking forward to this quiet period where we'll be able to have fun theorizing what could be before we get set in
Yeah.
stone. We get told what is set in stone for the
Well,
next 10 years.
I don't think it's going to be too long before we actually do have any news. If next year is the 60th, they must do something. Because like, isn't there? There's a video game coming out soon, I think, or in production. So maybe that'll come out next year.
Oh, I hope
Um,
so. That looks good.
but because it looks it's by the people who made Hitman, so it might be good. I don't know. It's Hitman, so I hit and miss. I think. um,
maybe that'll be the title. Hit or miss.
yeah, Hitman, hit or miss. Um, but yeah, I don't think we're going to have to wait too long before we get any news about it. So I think we the nothing period won't last too long. I don't think.
Hmm.
It's just the speculation year, I reckon.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, I think this is one thing I forgot to mention earlier. So thank God we had a bit of a detail near the end because I can remember this bit. But if we,
Yeah, a things we missed
yeah,
section.
but yeah, if they do go forward with the '60s setting, and again, I commit them to doing the fresh face actor. But if I had it my way, I would want them to actually keep a lot of the cast from MI6 from this film series. Do the same thing they did with Judy
Sure.
Dench. Make them be different versions of the same characters. Because it worked with Judy Dench, and she's
Hmm.
she's stellar in all her films. I think that they've got a great cast here that can definitely play the role into their twilight years. I can definitely see M growing white hair, becoming the new M from what we saw in the old Bond films. I would love to see Q, who really the actor I think was 30, Ben Whishaw. Really wish he could have been Doctor Who. Yeah, he
Hmm.
he he was 30.
He, yeah, I mean, he's very similar to Matt Smith, though, isn't he? That's that's a different discussion. This is a different
Yeah,
episode discussion.
but yeah, he was 30 when he started playing Q.
Very
Yeah,
a very young
the
Q.
youngest Q ever. So I definitely would love to see.
Hmm.
I would love to think that he could play the role for the next 30, 40 years into his like 60s to 70s. And he could, yeah, I
Yeah,
can
he
definitely
is
see
really
him
good.
becoming the next like big Q of the Icon series of the mantle. I'm wording it terribly, but yeah, I just feel like these actors have a great. I love them all, and they have the potential to continue into future films. And they've shown in the past they
Yeah,
can do that. It's not off the table just because they're probably going to do another reboot. So I would love that.
and the MI6 lot all have a great chemistry with each other. Like Ralph Fiennes, Naomi Harris, Ben Whishaw. Those three are really good as the MI6 crew. They're great together. They really work off each other. They're just good characters. And yeah, it would be a shame for them for this to be the last one, but also it would make sense, like because it's the last one for Daniel Craig. It must be the last one for everyone else. But it would be nice if they continued. Like what I said earlier on when you said about their final scene when they saluted Bond in MI6 office. they left it open for them to get back to work, as he said, and that would be good if they just sort of. I mean, it would be nice, but then it would also be weird. It's like, well, Bond died, and everyone else is, and he's back as someone else, but everyone else is still here. No one's acknowledging anything. Like, it might seem a bit strange when it happens, like at the time, if it happens.
Yeah, I guess which is why I think they should do the '60s setting to thoroughly show that it's like a different period, a different era. But
Yeah.
I think overall there's a lot of potential for the next Bond film, and I guess we'll find out what's going to become of the series. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. I think we're definitely. I think you're right. We're definitely going to find something out soon. Whether that's going to be about the actor or the story or just the tone, maybe. I think we're definitely going to find out at some point.
Director would be interesting to know if they chose a director
Yeah,
or a
I mean,
writer.
I would find it interesting if we could ever get any of the. I mean, I know Christopher Nolan has been considered for ages. I don't know how I feel about that because I don't know. I mostly know him from The Dark Knight, but I don't know. I think it would be
I
interesting.
mean, Inception was a homage to On Her Majesty's Secret Service in Inception, and that was really cool. Like the snow scene, when they're blowing up the building, that was a homage to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I think he could do a Bond. I think he'd be amazing at doing a Bond, and he'd get Hans Zimmer back as well as doing the music.
You could. I mean, who knows? Maybe Matthew Vaughn would want to do it.
He'd probably cast Cillian Murphy.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I like Matthew Vaughn, but his stuff to me, there's a certain style that he has that I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but I don't think it would suit Bond. Even though I know he did Kingsman, I don't think Kingsman is Bond. Kingsman is a completely different thing, and it works for him, but I don't think it would work for Bond.
Kingsman
I don't
is
know,
his
maybe it
own
would.
IP, and I feel like giving him Bond would be just a bit too much of a risk. And considering how Kingsman 2 turned out, I don't think anyone wants to see what he would do to Bond after that film.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, who knows?
yeah.
Again, probably might get a similar treatment to the new actor. They might give him to a fresh face, which again could be good or bad. Because again, depending on the current climate in Hollywood right now, for all we know, this new kid who could have potential could fuck it all up. But
I mean, it's really up to the writers, though, isn't it? If they get an actor who can act, it's
I
up to
think,
the writers
yeah,
if
exactly.
they can write. And I think it's easier to
Yeah,
act than it is
I
to
think
write because there's loads of actors and not as
I
many
think
writers.
the weakness of Hollywood right now is really just like people are getting so wrapped up in their personal lives or their messages or agendas or politics in life in terms of like being on top, being in Hollywood or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to deny it's we all have this underlying understanding that it's a bit of a cutthroat business, but I do feel like that has sort of been exposed in the last 10 years and has been seeping into the entertainment itself, and it's not helped the story and the audience really feel enjoyment in the products. They can't hide behind good movies anymore because they themselves are showing that they're not talented enough to do it. And some of it is probably just because people are just not
Mm.
experienced enough, but because of the opportunities they're being given, it's not giving them time to really stretch their muscles and build themselves up and be good enough in the role. So I feel like it's going to be a bit of a concerning period as well because again, for all we know, we could find out they could wow us with the next Bond casting and the next story cast, the story announcement. They could confirm all the things that we hope they confirm, and then they could reveal, oh, Chris Chibnall will be directing the next Bond film. Yeah, exactly.
No,
So you never know. It could go sideways. You never know. But again, I feel like they've kept up an okay track
I mean
record
it's just
so far. So I would like to think that they have their thinking caps on and they're seeing what's going on right now, and they'll have common sense to say, let's try and find someone who has all the qualities we're looking for and maybe a bit more, and hopefully go from there.
I mean we just need to find someone who can like make a good story. That's the crux of everything. They just need someone who can write good fun, interesting stories, and if they have any political things in it, if they can weave it in a good way, then sure. But if they ram it down our throats, that's not what we want. And I hope that people now, like today, realize that a a fun story will be better, or a good, well written story will be better than a story with a agenda. And like, I'm not trying to go into. I'm not good politics. I don't know much about anything like that. But I just think that a good story will people want a good story now.
Yes,
Nowadays,
stories are
I
what
hope.
make them timeless. Agenda, politics, that's what dates events, stories, and in this case, movies.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a reason we're not going to be remembering a lot of the big franchises for certain things that they did. Now we're just going to remember them from the period they were at now and the actions they did because they thought that was the thing to do. Thankfully, the new Bond film escaped that for the most part, and I feel like that this film will definitely have its. I think it's gonna be cemented in history as like the part of the serious era for Bond, the Jason Bourne era inspiration period. And whatever happens with the next era, it's going to
Mm.
be up to the filmmakers to decide if they want to go a different route, if they want to go a bit more back to the classic fun, cheesy, funny, witty, burst adventurous Bond of the old films, or if they want to go a completely different direction, maybe even go even more darker, as if they could do that more darker. But again, you never know.
I mean, you could, but you might have to make it an R-rated.
Uh,
I mean, I could see it.